It's one of the most dispiriting things, right, is when you can tell a lot of times when these people are talking that, wow, he's really not lying. He really thinks that that stupid lie is true. And he's telling us what he thinks is true. Like, this, depending on their tone and the way they explain it, he is sometimes, like even with Donald Trump, like, it's possible he's even talked himself or allowed himself to be talked into believing that they really were making nuclear weapons and that then they were going to use them on us. I mean, that might just be the dumbest lie and he knows it.
Right, but if they did have nuclear weapons, it would be a giant problem. Because the Iranian government, just look what they've done to their people. Executed protesters. They've done some wild shit.
Nah, I don't know.
You don't think that's a big deal, what they've done to their protesters?
In fact, that's where we got off on Martyr Made there a minute ago, was because on our show he was saying, right now, through their conventional power, and especially because W. Bush gave their best friends Baghdad, Iran is by far the dominant power in the region, conventionally speaking, other than us. If they rush to an atom bomb, say to somehow deter us, which I don't think that would work. I think we just attack them if they really did it. We just attack them again. But if they did somehow get an atomic bomb, well, then that would then incentivize all of the other powers, or other states on the GCC there, Saudi and Qatar and Bahrain and UAE, to get their own nukes. And at that point, Iran's entire strategic advantage is canceled because now they got nukes too. And so now nobody has a strategic advantage.
But no one can do to them what happened to them now if they had nukes. Like,
Maybe.
This was the argument for Ukraine not disarming.
But that would include that would include them being able to deliver them to the United States as well. And I think, see, it's like this. Here's how it worked, okay? The Iranians, they're members of the Non-Proliferation Treaty going way back. And they had a safeguarded civilian nuclear program where the IAEA could verify they're not diverting their nuclear material.
How could they verify this?
Oh, it's
if
just,
they have their bases all underground? I mean,
no, because all that stuff was open and declared and safeguarded by the IAEA. So they're enriching at two major facilities at Fordo and Natanz, and then they followed the uranium from womb to tomb, from the mine through the conversion process.
Right, but how much oversight do they have of this? I mean, how much of it could be done in secrecy?
It was very robust up until last June. Essentially, they were proving the negative there.
Can I pause you there? Because they didn't know that the Iranians had the capacity to they sent 4,000 kilometers, right? The Diego Garcia attack.
The missile.
So those missiles had a far greater range than anything that they had declared.
Actually, not quite, because, well, first of all, the missile stuff is totally separate from their safeguards agreement with the IAEA. They have nothing to do with that. But as far as the missiles, the only limit on their missile range previously was a political limit. And it
wasn't a capability?
That's right. So it
wasn't that they stated that all we have is this?
They only previously, but then in October of, I'm pretty sure it was last October, in the aftermath of the June War. So then in October of 25, the Ayatollah announced we're lifting our limit on the range of our missiles. And they said that publicly, that they were doing that. And and that was as a result, again, of this provocation of the war last June. And that's still separate from the nuclear stuff, though. But go ahead.
I'm sorry. So it wasn't a capability thing. It was just an agreement.
Although they don't have the capability to launch a 3-stage intercontinental ballistic missile to the United States of America. They can hit Israel, but they can do that with an intermediate range missile. Could Iran, with Chinese help or whatever, someday be able to deliver a warhead here? Yes. However, the much better solution to that certainly would have been, I know we can't go back, but certainly would have been just normalizing relations with Iran and just dealing with them. The reality was Iran's position was not that they were racing to a nuke. Their position was they had this safeguarded program where, again, the IAEA is essentially proving the negative. We know where all their uranium is. It's right where it's supposed to be, and they haven't taken it and diverted it yet. And we know how much they're enriching, and we know where it all goes. And so then Israel would say, America, they're making nukes. If they have a nuclear program at all, this is the same during W. Bush, during Obama. This is true under Olmert as well as under Netanyahu, who's been in charge almost the entire time since Obama. And the policy was from the Israelis, America, bomb them. They got a civilian program, and that's just cover for they're going to make nukes someday, and they're going to use them on us, so just go ahead and let's get them now. Then America would say, no, we're not doing that. This is under W. Bush, again, under Obama, under Trump 1 and under Biden. No, we're not going to just start a war. But we will warn the Iranians, don't you break out and try to make a nuke now. Because if you do, then we will attack you. And we'll bomb your Manhattan Project before you can complete it and before you can get an atom bomb. We'll see you then. And then the Iranians would say, we're not making nukes, so don't attack us. And then the heavy implication was, if you attack us, then we might make nukes. So they had a latent deterrent, right? A half-assed nuclear weapons deterrent. They proved that they had mastered the fuel cycle, that they could enrich uranium if they wanted to up to weapons grade. They never did. But they were essentially saying, we have a revolver in one pocket and bullets in the other. Let's not escalate this. And that could have and should have stood, except this is the answer to your question about how did they get us into this? Because Netanyahu convinced Trump to change that line and to adopt the Israeli line. That for them to have a civilian nuclear program at all is equivalent to the exact same thing as them making nuclear weapons, and we're just not going to allow that.
So how much understanding do we have of their capabilities, and how do we have that understanding? Like, how much do we know about their enrichment program? How much do we know about whether or not they're capable of making a weapon? Because haven't they stated recently that they are capable of making a nuclear weapon?
Well,
do you think that's bluster?
That was not a threat. I think in fact, if I know the statement that you're talking about, they were saying, look, we're not making nukes. And the proof that we're not is the fact that we know how to, we could, and we're still not. And you can see all this time. They mastered the fuel cycle back in 2006. Mm-hmm. So it's like this, and they have been set back on this. They got their facility blown up last June. But essentially remember yellow cake? Don't drop that shit. Mm-hmm. You have that refined yellow cake is refined uranium ore. Then you convert that to uranium hexafluoride gas. And that's the stuff that you inject into the centrifuges. Then you have what's called a cascade of centrifuges, a whole bunch of them all connected together with tubes. And then you spin the uranium hexafluoride gas in the centrifuges, and you spin the U-238, which is heavier, out and away from the 235, which is the sweet stuff. And the more you enrich it, then the more capable it is of being used for nukes. Well, is one way to put it. But so they need like 3.6% U-235 for their electricity program. They need 20% U-235 for targets for their medical isotope reactors for like cancer treatment, radiation, or like that radioactive dye that they put in people to see your circulatory system and stuff. But then to make weapons grade uranium, you need typically above 90% pure uranium-235. In any case, once you spin it through the centrifuges to whatever stage of purity, then you got to convert it back into a metal again, whether you're going to make fuel rods or whether you're going to try to make a bomb warhead out of it.
Yeah, as far as needing a reason, letting the American people know that there's a nuclear weapon, that's like the best reason to go and start a war with somebody. Because that's the thing that we don't want. We don't want nuclear weapons just, in people's hands that could use them. You know what I mean? So that's a given. True, not true. That's just an easy way out. So Trump is going to use that all day long. Like, yeah. And he does continuously. Now we're 100% sure they don't have a nuclear weapon. Like, yeah, I don't really mean anything. As far as Israel, I mean, even though we have a ceasefire, temporarily ceasefire, it's fragile. There still is in Gaza and Lebanon, despite still dropping bombs. So it's fragile. It's very fragile. I don't see a peace treaty in the near future at all, So, and Israel's not going to stop, because let's just say they stop, then what was it all for? Like, they're not getting nothing out of that. Technically, they lost, because now they're getting that if there is a peace treaty later down the road, but I don't think he's going to stop. And that's why I think the United States needs to get out. They need to get out of that. They need to get out of Israel. Let them fight their own battles. But here's the scary part. If they do something like that and they say, okay, you can fight your own battles, you go fight Iran by yourself, and we're out. You don't think Benjamin Netanyahu's going to get desperate? Drop a nuke? He could be the one to drop the nuke because he's desperate, because he can't win without the United States' help. That's scary. That is scary. And that's always how shit plays out. You're worried about somebody else, And it's not the one that you're worried about. It's the other one that's sticking their nose in there. And he's already on the back nine of his life. You think he cares? He wants like something big for his legacy. And that's huge if he was to drop a nuke, because he got desperate. But here's the thing. Even though we have this temporary ceasefire, there is, I believe the strait is opening back up. And I'm in California, so I can attest to this. The gas prices at one point were starting to trickle into the $6 area. I was starting to get nervous that it might even be $7, $8, $10. So I have seen that the gas prices are a little bit lower. I've seen it under $5.20. It was $5.50, $5.60, like at Arco. I mean, you could go down to L.A. in the city of L.A. and it was already $7. But I'm just talking about in general, like if you're in the San Gabriel Valley or Riverside or something like that, it was about $5.55. It's about down to like $5.25. I haven't been down to L.A. to see actually what it is exactly. It's probably low sixes if you go straight to L.A. in the city. So I don't know, but I started to see a little bit of decrease on the gas prices. Just going back to what I had thought from the very beginning, I don't think there is a way out of this of this war. These are all just going to be temporary little ceasefires here and there, just to see what we can get. But Iran is not going to go for anything less than what they really want. And the nuclear program, they'll stop that. I don't think that's a big deal for them. I think reparations and money for each ship that goes through is going to be a big thing for them. And getting Israel out of Lebanon. So I think that would be, but that's not going to happen. So they're going to continue to bomb until we get out. And I think Trump is already getting worn out with Benjamin already. I think he is. I think he's already worn out. I know the American people are worn out with the Israel government. We're out on that shit already. Let's turn the page, turn the chapter. It's over. So, I mean, his approval rating is probably in the toilet already. So, as is Donald Trump. His approval rating is in the toilet. So you got Netanyahu in the toilet and you got Trump in the toilet. And what does that mean for Vance? What does that mean for him? You think he has a decent chance to win a president for the party? I don't think so. I think I think when midterms come up and Trump, because if you go to Poly Market, the Democrats, they're favored to clean up. He's going to be a lame duck president. And what does that mean for Trump, for Vance? He's going to be a lame duck. He's going to be a guy that's going to be stuck on an island pretty much. As long as you're in proximity of this administration, I don't think you have a chance to win the next presidency. I don't think so. Even Gavin Newsom, with how I don't think people would like him as well. Like, I'm in California. I know a lot of people, they're not. I mean, they think Gavin Newsom's the reason for everything that's messed up in California. I don't personally. I think there's a bigger issue with California, but that's for another subject. That's for another day, another topic. But yeah, that's what people think of him. So I don't even know if the Democrats have a decent candidate. And on Poly Market, he's the favorite to be the nominee for the Democratic Party. So we'll see how that goes. I think we need somebody else, somebody that's slick, and it's not him. So, but anyways, like, follow, subscribe, bang that notification. Let's go.